Shalom everyone. This is going to be a very quick video also. At least I say it's a quick video because I want to give as much information as possible in this video. Look, I want to talk about fear porn. Okay, first of all, when people hear the word porn, they immediately think about sexual movies or sexual pictures. And I've already talked about porn and what porn really is in some videos I made I think about 4 months ago, maybe half a year ago. So browse on through my videos a few months back and you will find it, or use the search box on my YouTube channel to look for it. I believe it's called Pornographic World or something like that. Okay, just remember, porn is imagery that's used to provoke you to receive an offer. And you are receiving the offer without being aware that you're receiving the offer, because it promotes a promise that can't be fulfilled. But the only one that thinks that it can't be fulfilled is you. And as I mentioned before, you're not even aware that you are accepting an offer. Okay, that's the magic of porn, basically. Now you have sexual porn, you have financial porn, you have all kinds of porn. Now, in this, hold on a minute. About sexual porn, in your brain you have what we call the pleasure center. Okay? With men, it works like this. When a man sees a sexual image or some image that of the opposite sex that um, suggests some kind of sexual activity, when a man sees that, the pleasure center in his brain is activated. And that pleasure center, it produces certain hormones that give extra energy to the brain and also to the body. And what's a consequence of it? Your body will have the need to release all that energy. Now, this does not mean that just because your pleasure center was provoked by an image or by something your eyes captured, that immediately you need to have sex. It's not that way. It can be that when you have that extra energy, you tend to work harder on the job, or that you tend to that you decide to write a song or something like that. It means it's just an energy release into your body, and now you will find ways to release that energy. Okay? Now, this knowledge is being used by corporations to sell their products. Okay? More I'm not going to say about it because this video is about fear porn. Now, fear porn is the type of porn in which the fear itself is being offered onto you. Or let me say it better, fear porn is a type of porn in which there is no real promise being made unto you, but the fear itself is being presented to you in its ugly form. But you're not aware that fear is being presented to you in its ugly form. Okay? Now, about fear porn. Okay? Let me give an example of fear porn. I'm going to use some illustrations from antiquity, some historical fiction I'm going to use as illustration to point out something to you, because fear porn is not something new. It has been around here since antiquity, since ancient times. Okay, then I'm going to use some modern day illustrations of fear porn. Okay, look, let's say you lived in Crete, or let's say you lived in Athens in ancient times. It was the 4th century BC, and you had the Medo-Persian Empire that was the world's power at the time. Yet the Medo-Persian Empire was weakening and weakening. It was basically collapsing from the inside. Then you had those rulers in Athens, those philosophers. They knew about this, yet they did not want the population in Athens nor the villages around Athens to know about this. Instead, they went to Cyprus. They hired some professional actors, paid them a lot of money, a lot of silver coins, and they told those actors to attack a village near Athens. And of course, they explained to the actors that village will also be inhabited by actors, so don't worry about it. It will be fine. So it happens. Those Cyprian actors, they come to near a village near in Athens and they make the attack. Of course, that the attack is as heroes. Heroes had defended the Greek city, the Greek civilization. And now one of those soldiers that returned, he saw a lot of his um, peers die at the hands of Persian officials and all of that, because Turkey was under the governance of, yeah, say the Persian Empire at the time. So this guy then begins to ask some questions. This guy then notices that, hold on a minute, 5 months ago everything was fine. Instantly there were attacks in Athens by so-called Persians and yet Thracians attacking in Corinth. But hold on a minute. All these uniforms that we wear for war, all those spears, all those swords, it takes a while to. We were around 40,000 men. It takes a while to make 40,000 uniforms. How did they knew that there would be 40,000 uniforms needed? It takes time to make all those spears. And by the way, blacksmiths had to make all of those weapons, so they had to be paid for their work. The textile workers had to be paid. The priests and the religious leaders had to be paid for the ceremonies they were doing. Also, there were um, legislators that went with us during the war to register everything that happened, who fell during the war, who didn't. There were also chefs needed to cook meals for us, and those meals had to be prepared, so also chefs had to be paid. And where did they receive all the meat and all the grain to feed the soldiers? That also cost a lot of money. So this war hero, who's now honored by the community of Athens, he begins to think and he realized that, hold on a minute, this doesn't make sense. If Athens was really suddenly attacked by the Persians, then things wouldn't have been such well organized. It was too organized for it to be a surprise. And then a few years passed by, and he realized that, hold on a minute, half of the young men in Athens and around Athens died basically. So half of the men of his generation, of his age group. But then he finds out that um, that many of those young men were had plans to go into business, to build their own houses and all of that. And if that would have happened, then other cities, other towns would have come into existence apart from Athens, and that would mean that the influence of Athens would decrease because at the time a few years back, most of the civilians in the villages around Athens were dependent upon the aid of Athens. But if all those young men really went into business and did what they wanted to do, then the influence of Athens would have decreased. So, and because many of those men were not around, there was less rivalry. So, because of that, there were more female servants now who could work for free in the city because their brothers, often their fathers, were gone. And then the former soldier begins to realize, hold on a minute. I understand it now. The Greek aristocracy in Athens just didn't want to lose their economic power upon the region. They didn't want to have competition, so they needed to get rid of a lot of people as a distraction. And then he begins to realize that, hold on a minute, the Persian Empire has been weakened for about 50 years. There's been corruption and collapse from inside the Persian Empire. It's weird that the Persian Empire attacked us, but they never continued to attack us. So now he realized it was a hoax. What happened here? There was fear porn that took place. The rulers of Athens, they faked an attack but the people perceived it as real. So the people became frightened. And because they were frightened, they were afraid, they couldn't think straight. And they look at this. The fear porn lasted for months. So people became hysteric. And this hysteria made people violent. So now they needed somewhere to express their violence. You see? And now the Greek rulers had to charge the violence of the people, or else it would have the whole Athens, the whole community of Athens would have, they basically would have killed one another, literally. So that's why they sent them to war to relieve the community of the tensions. And before the false flag, there were a lot of rivalries and a lot of how to say a lot of hostilities between families and a lot of fights within the city. All of those things were gone also. People are now in harmoniously following mainstream society in Athens. That's what you need to understand here. Fear porn is designed to give fear unto you. Okay? But you're not aware that you're receiving fear. And once you receive the fear is going to work itself out in you. So now you need a way to be discharged from the tension that the fear is causing in you. So now the first and most beneficial outlet you will find, because remember, you're not thinking straight anymore. You've become mentally ill due to the fear porn. So now the first and most beneficial way out for you, you will take it. But you're not aware that the ones providing that way out were the same one that came with the fear porn. Okay, let me give another ancient illustration. You have, let me say, you have the Roman Empire, and you have the people in Britain. Britain became a part of the Roman Empire in the 5th decade of the 1st century. Now, at the end of the 1st century, you see, there may be some people that began to doubt the benefit of being part of the Roman Empire. So what happened? The governor in Britain noticed the rumors and he reported it to the emperor in Rome. The emperor in Rome didn't want to have any uprising in Britain, so what did he do? He gathered around 500 soldiers from Italy, and they were sent to Britain, to a military camp in the north of Britain. When they arrived in a military camp in the north of Britain, those 500 soldiers were commanded to dress up like Caledonian tribes. Caledonians were the ancient Scottish people. They were told to dress up as Caledonians in order and to attack people in the north of Britain while dressed as those Caledonians. So they did it. They did it a few times, and their soldiers returned back to Rome. The people in Britain, they endured all those raids, but they were thinking it's from the Caledonians. So now the people in Britain now wanted soldiers in the military to protect them. So now more men joined the army and were stationed in the north. More men became, and in order for the army to mobilize, you need to have roads. So many of the young men that joined the army to protect their families, they helped building roads. They worked over hours to build roads. So within 20 years, many roads were constructed in Britain. Also, the economy was boosted because more weapons needed to be made. And so in this way, in a cheap manner, the Romans managed to Romanize Britain by making the infrastructure effective and by boosting the economy. So now the population beforehand was doubting a Roman rulership. Now they were full. And nobody even talked about the rage anymore. People forgot about it. So that's what I want to make clear unto you. Fear porn is a political agenda. To Because the thing about fear porn is, if the fear was not sold onto you, if you would not have received the fear, then you wouldn't have contributed to the agenda. Because those with the agenda know that you would not have contributed to the agenda anyway. So that's why you had to be distracted by being made afraid, being provoked to danger. So when you sought a release from the tension, the release of the tension would be beneficial to the agenda. Now, the consequence of fear porn. I gave two examples, one of ancient Greece and one of Britain during the Roman rule. And there are more examples you can give concerning this. Look, when fear porn is being used, it affects people without people being aware of it. Let me give an example of the present day fear porn. Now listen, fear, fear porn does not equal a false flag. It can be that indeed something did happen, but even then, the report that is being given about what happened can also be a form of fear porn. Okay. For example, you have these beheadings happening by this Daesh cult in northern Syria and northern Iraq. They call it ISIS or ISIL. Now, those beheadings are happening. Those murders are happening. Okay. There has been some attacks throughout Europe and the USA that were claimed by that terror group. And then you have reports that the media of the countries are giving their people. But now, from time to time, when you check those narratives that the media is selling to us, I mean, which they are showing to us, many of times those reports don't add up. I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about ISIL or ISIS or Daesh, however they call those people over there. They're demon possessed, filled with evil spirits. They dedicate themselves onto Satan. So we're not going to discuss them too much. But just think about this: if that group really was that rich and powerful as people claim, then why didn't they shut down France within 2 weeks? If they really were that rich and that influential and that well trained as the Western media claims, then how come they did not shut down France already? It doesn't take much to shut down a whole country. If they're really that intelligent, if they're really that powerful that they've made their own Islamic state, then they are intelligent enough to shut down another country by using fear porn. They didn't do it. So now you're beginning to think, are those attacks in France, were it really done by IS, or were just lunar attacks by lone wolves, and now the government is blaming it on ISIS and using it against the French people? I'm not saying this is the case, but I just want you to think, okay? Now, I've given three examples, two from antiquity and one lately of fear porn. And the thing is, listener, fear porn will always lead you somewhere you never want to go. Fear porn will always lead you into dangerous circumstances. And there's another thing: fear porn, if the tensions it generates does not find an outlet, people will begin to massacre one another. People will become how do I say it? They will become sick of suspicion. They'll become paranoid without being aware that they are paranoid. And this paranoia will express itself in violent words, violent reactions, and because of that, there will be more conflict, and the conflicts will escalate. By the way, fear porn is not only used to generate war, it's also used to bring down a population. I mean, throughout ancient times, this used to happen, okay? If you want to take over a country or a region, what do? You can send your army, but then you might meet resistance. So what do? Send people into the country to cause conflict. You use fear porn, and when the conflicts escalate and the population is too weakened to defend themselves, then you come in with your solution. And as an outsider, because you have the solution, people are desperate for a solution, they will accept it, and now you've taken over the country. And people aren't even aware they are being taken over. They would have never accepted that some foreign power would have taken over their area. But now it happens with their consent and they're not even aware of it. But in this case, fear porn was used to break down a community, to cause conflict and bloodshed. And listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I deal with facts and reality. I am willingly to discuss conspiracy theories, but I prefer holding on to facts and reality. Now listen here. It would be very naive, or even dangerously naive, to presume that fear porn is not being used today. It's not even childish, it's stupid to think like that. Fear porn is being used on you daily. And that's why you need to rely on the Most High alone. Okay? Because listen, when people are victimized by fear porn, those people, without being aware of it, they will victimize others. For example, an illustration, you're walking down the street. Someone sees you and becomes frightened. And that individual now is so scared he imagines that you attacked him. But you didn't attack him, but he imagined it. But because he is in an altered state of consciousness, he cannot he will think that attack really happens while you never even attacked him. He was one imagining it. But he goes home and he reports that you have attacked him. And the people around were also traumatized, believe it, and now they're coming after you, wanting to harm you. What just happened is a consequence of fear porn. Fear porn makes victims into victimizers. Okay, and you can become one of those victims due to fear porn. Okay, so fear porn will always get out of hand. That's why when false flags are being executed by the media and the government and by companies, when that happens, they always come with a solution quickly because they know if they don't come with a solution quickly and on time, they will be responsible for massacres and all of those things. Now look, I wanted to make this video about fear porn to alert you, not to scare you, but to alert you. Those things are happening. And listen, all the escalations you see going on throughout the world now is due to fear porn, for the most part. And there are people around you who are into fear porn in the sense that the fear has gotten hold of them, they become paranoid and they become violent, and they're not aware that this has happened to them, and they are justifying the violence that they are doing. That's the worst part, when people agree with the violence that comes as a result and they justify it without being aware why they're violent, but they justify them pouring out their frustrations upon someone else. This is something serious, okay? So that's why, listen, every day every day you wake up, begin with prayer, begin with thanksgiving, and throughout your day, don't let anyone deceive you. If you feel like there's danger somewhere, begin to praise, begin to pray, or begin to speak the promise of the Most High. Do it, okay? Well, listen, I'm not saying you can always trust feelings. You can't always trust feelings. But listen, when you feel as if danger is approaching, it can be that there is danger around you. Your spirit may sense danger. It may not be that you are the one that it may not be you that has something dangerous with it, but it can be there's danger around and your spirit senses it. So when you feel that, pray. Just pray. Don't rationalize it away or don't begin to figure it out on your own strength. Just pray. Look, as I mentioned before, these videos, I'm uploading them using a software. I'm not on YouTube that often. If you want to message me, send me an email or send me a private message on YouTube. And as soon as possible, I'll do my best to respond to you. And maybe we can talk on Skype also. But for now, just remain in the Word. Continue in the Word of the Lord. Don't let anything or anyone distract you. That being said, may the grace of Christ Jesus be with you. Shalom.